like, what? He's like, he tore his pec. I don't think this is a huge loss for the Lions. Like, I said earlier, last segment, they have Emmanuel Mosley coming back, and that's just saying that at least the Lions secondary is getting some type of reinforcement from what they had last week with C.J. Gardner-Johnson going out.
Yes.
But now we are going to have to ask everybody on the defensive unit, and I'm not saying that they're going to, I'm not saying that they're not, but the matter of the fact is, he was the battery plug of this whole team. The guys, the defensive unit and the offensive unit relied on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Not only was he a Pro Bowl type of level player, all-pro type of level player, but he was damn near the leader of that locker room. So losing him is both huge on and off the field. I am still in shock.
Well,
like, I can't believe that. I didn't even know he was hurt. And then he's out for the season.
Yeah,
like, what the fuck happened?
He returned that game, too. So, like, that made me more optimistic. Like, okay, maybe just a stunner. Who knows? A bruise. He came back into the football game, played. Didn't play too bad, to be honest with you. And then, of course, he's ruled out now indefinitely. Probably the entire season with a torn pec. And I got a buddy that works in the medical field, and he's a big Lions fan, too. And he even said, he's like, yeah, he's like torn pec. He's most likely out for the entire season. Now, everything's different. I know people are talking about TJ Watt. He tore his pec and he came back the same season. Every injury is different depending on the individual. I don't know how that applies. Can CJ come back for the playoffs? That'd be awesome. But we have to focus on just making the playoffs and just winning your division. Let's go through some of the injuries, and then we'll react to all of them. So Vaitai, Dan said he's not going on IR. Good news. It looked ugly when you watched the game live. It looked like a bad knee injury.
Especially after he left, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then you got Graham Glasgow. He's probably going to be filling in that right guard role. David Montgomery is day-to-day at the moment. And I don't know if that's strategic. You're saying that for the Falcons. You're saying he's day-to-day to put them on edge. But I don't think that injury is day-to-day. It's more, to me, like a week-to-week. But we'll see. Hope maybe he can come back this upcoming week. Taylor Decker improving his condition, his ankle injury. But again, he's banged up as well. Josh Pascal still on IR. Julian Okwara still on IR. Like, a lot of injuries here. And a lot of them on the defensive side of the ball, which is even more frustrating. Like, that's the side of the ball that at least you thought, especially with the secondary. Luckily for Brad Holmes' sake, he's addressed the depth at different positions. You have depth in your secondary, right? Tracy Walker hasn't really even been playing.
Thank God we have Tracy Walker.
Yes,
still.
thank goodness. You have Tracy Walker. You still got the rookie Brian Branch. Will still be in the slot. And then, of course, offensively, you got some backup offensive linemen that could fill that role. But Vaitai was playing great ball, man. He was playing great. He was the highest graded player according to PFF before he went down on the Lions. So again, what do these injuries mean? My take on it, it's the NFL. Injuries are bound to happen. You have to find ways to overcome them. We all understand this. Last season, I think it's just in Lions fans' head. Like, it's foreign. Injuries are foreign at this point because last year the Lions pretty much got out of there unscathed for the most part. And this season, of course, like every other season, is very different. And you lost a lot of key players. But again, Pascal will return in a couple of weeks. Julian will return. Decker's getting healthy. Montgomery getting better, improving his condition. The only one I'm really concerned about, just because of the energy he brings, the things he does off the field as well, the tone he sets, is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's probably the biggest loss to me. Everybody else will come back eventually. They just got to hold it down while they're out. C.J., though, that's questionable.
But, them holding it down, it's definitely easier said than done. And before I go, I got to shout out Drago in the chat. I actually met him downtown on Sunday. I was doing some other of my life duties downtown, and I met him, and he was really cool, and we got to talking for a minute. It was before the game, so we were all a lot happier. Hopefully you're doing okay and coping with the loss all right. But anywho, speaking of sad things, let's talk about the Lions injuries right now.
One more, James Houston.
He's
out 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured ankle. There's another one.
I was going to mention him. And there's Lucas, your pain, I think, was about, like, you mentioned it perfectly. I didn't even know C.J. Gardner-Johnson was injured. And then I look at my phone. We all got that text. I think it might have been from JB or it might have been from Booner. It was from one of them that said C.J. Gardner-Johnson torn pec, likely out for season. And we were all just like,
the world collapsed around me.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we didn't even know. Like, the Lions already had some bad injuries, and this one was just another one because C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I know that the Lions have depth in the secondary, and Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph and Tracy Walker, who hasn't really played a lot this year, they'll all have to step up, and I think they're all capable of doing so. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson was really the offseason signing that changed everything. I didn't think the Lions had any chance of getting him. He basically took a discount on a prove-it deal to come play for the Detroit Lions after the previous year being tied for the NFL lead in interceptions with 6 while only playing 12 games on a team that represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. So he is the player on this defense right now that has the most experience and has probably accomplished the most in the NFL in terms of individual players so far. And now he's gone. And it was just another name to the list because we talk about Vaitai, who fortunately seems to have avoided a serious major injury, but still, his PFF grade, you mentioned it, has really reflected how well he played in the first game and some change. You talk about James Houston, a guy who last year was second on the team in sacks, was second among all rookies in sacks with 8 in 7 games. It looks like he's going to be gone for a while. David Montgomery, they say it's day to day. The only time, at least in the Seahawks game, when the running game looked like it was functioning and fluid, was when David Montgomery was in the game. Because newsflash, Jahmyr Gibbs didn't look so good running the football. Craig Reynolds is Craig Reynolds.
Yeah,
he is what he is. I'm not going to trust him.
Right.
And then even Taylor Decker, he didn't play in the last game, and we don't know about his status moving forward. We think he's going to play in the next couple of weeks. But Taylor Decker, this is a man that has started 98 games, mostly at left tackle in his entire career, has had 2 seasons with PFF grades over 80, and 5 consecutive seasons with PFF grades over 70. Taylor Decker is as solid as it comes. He's not elite, but this Lions offensive line certainly needs him, especially if Vaitai is out as well, because we might be looking at a lot of Matt Nelson, which I think nobody wants to see, unfortunately.
Now, and I want to go around the room here, and everybody can kind of discuss or name the guy that they're most concerned with their absence. And everybody in the chat is already kind of chiming in. Put yours in the chat. Who are you most concerned with being out? I'll start. I got 2. 1, James Houston. The only one on this defensive line that can consistently win one-on-ones. He's out. So that's an issue, I think, for the defensive line. And the other one to me would be Monty. Because without Monty, I'm concerned for this run game. Like, I really am. And again, you go back to before the season, David, I think he's an upgrade over Jamal. I thought it was great. Jahmyr Gibbs is still a rookie. They're easing him along. It's not ideal now, only in 2 weeks, that Monty's out. And a guy who's Jahmyr, who you drafted 12, and he should be ready to go. That's a guy that they're going to have to give a lot more carries to. It puts him in probably not an ideal situation. They want to kind of ease Jahmyr along, and now he's just kind of being thrown right into the fire with Craig Reynolds. With a couple of injuries on the offensive line, that running game does scare me. So David Montgomery and James Houston are the 2 that I'm like, that's not good. That's not good. And by the way, this comment, Dr. Detroit, why are you concerned? You said Gibbs was the man. I think he can be, especially in the passing game. But Dr. Detroit, if you watch the show, I wanted Bijan all along. Jahmyr was somebody that I had to understand why Brad took him. The jury's still not out on him, right? We need to see more. But I'm not sitting over here saying Gibbs is, Jamal Charles is a great comparison, but we still got to see it out of Gibbs. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't sitting here pounding the table to draft Gibbs. I thought he'd be in the second round. But again, uber talented. But we shall see with Jahmyr Gibbs. We shall see.
I mean, if I had to pick one, it's without a doubt. I don't even think I understand David Montgomery's important, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I don't think it's close. Because not only the role that he fills, but now they're going to have to rearrange his defense. Our safety depth, thank God we have it. Now you got to put Tracy, Brian Branch, Kirby there. You know who's probably going to be on the field a lot more now? Will Harris. Will Harris is going to be on the field a lot more than he was already. So not only are you taking the presence of C.J. Gardner-Johnson out, but in my opinion, there's going to be a liability on the field. And when you got the games they have it going, you got Desmond Ridder at home. Don't blow it. But then you're on the road in Green Bay. And then you're on the road in Baltimore. Then you're on the road in L.A. Right. Those are games where secondary is going to be huge. And the fact that we lost in secondary, which helps out the pass rush, it helps out Aiden Hutchinson, it helped out James Houston, so they had less time to be there. So the fact that he's not there, you can't have him in the box. I know they have Melifonwu too, but he's not really a proven product. So I'm definitely most concerned about CJ. I think Monty we're going to have back at some point.
Yes.
CJ's done. Like, we're not going to see him unless it's like a deep playoff run. And we got a whole lot of shit to worry about before that.